Hi, so have you ever wondered what it might be like if you find yourself on a ship and that announcement is made, everybody has to go back to their staterooms, you're quarantined? Well, it happened to me, so I'll tell you about it. Welcome to Cruise Talk with Ryan. I worked on a ship for a number of years as a location guide, then I became a cruise director, and then I transitioned over to the corporate side of things, which is where I find myself right now. And I was sailing on a ship in South America a few months ago when the captain made the call. Everyone has to go back to their stateroom. The ship is going on lockdown. We're quarantining everyone. But let's skip to the part when the captain made the announcement that everybody needs to go back to their staterooms. I had been on ships for years and never heard anything like that before. But once we were in our stateroom, I had an inside stateroom, so I didn't have any windows. There really wasn't a whole lot that went on. Of course, in-room dining was canceled. You couldn't order food. But it makes sense, right? If everybody on the ship is sent to the room and everyone's calling for so many different things, it would completely overwhelm the galley. So no in-room dining when we were quarantined in our room, but they did have a set menu, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Of course, if you had dietary options, you can call the front office and request special things. And if they could accommodate that, they certainly would try their best. And how food was delivered was you get a knock on your stateroom door. You would open the door and the food would be on the floor. You would pick up your tray, bring it in, you would eat, and then you would dispose of your tray the same way. You'd open the door, set it on the ground, and somebody would come by and pick it up. And that is literally how all the food was served the entire time. You did have a beverage menu that was dropped off with your stateroom, and you got to pick different beverages for lunch and dinner. So in our case, you were able to get any kind of liquor that you wanted, beer or wine, or any non-alcoholic drinks, of course. But that was delivered to your stateroom as well. And internet. So once everybody was quarantined to the room, they opened up the Wi-Fi at no charge, which was really nice. But because they gave everybody on the ship Wi-Fi, the bandwidth was, of course, a little slow, but at least we were able to reach out to family and friends and read in the news, which was quite nice. As far as entertainment, that was really interesting. So the cruise director on the particular ship that I was sailing on, they had kind of a morning show every day. What they used to do a long time ago, the cruise director would just interview maybe the different guest entertainers that were also quarantined on the ship, and just kind of have a coffee chat, which was really nice. So even though you were quarantined in your stateroom, the entertainment department was still trying to deliver as much entertainment as possible. One of the bands that was on board, they did a musical set that was just filmed and then broadcast on your stateroom television. The assistant cruise director would host, like yoga classes, stretch classes, workout classes, and the workout classes were tailored for workouts that you could do whilst you were in your cabin. So they were working with things that were available. Then they had trivia sheets. The trivia sheets were delivered to the staterooms. So a daily trivia, Sudoku, all the typical, games that you would imagine, which was really kind of cool that the entertainment department were really working as hard as they could to still deliver virtual entertainment while you were on the cruise ship. As far as communication, I thought personally that it was really nice. The captain would make announcements about our situation, what was going on. Unfortunately, the countries wouldn't let us go in. So Chile close to us, Peru close to us, Ecuador close to us. Panama, they said we couldn't go through the Panama Canal. So we were kind of anchored out at sea, trying to figure out how to transit the Panama Canal. And in my particular case, another ship came, and we were able to disembark people off one ship onto the next ship. And that was a very slick operation. So they had the medical staff come around and drop off a questionnaire. You filled it out, then they would do temperature checks, and then they would select people to transition to the other ship. And when the medical staff came to my stateroom to check my temperature, it was really cool because you had the singers and dancers helping the medical staff. The front office had people working from entertainment, the art department, and it became clear to me that all the employees on the ship were just doing whatever they could. I know some people in the art department that were actually washing dishes in the galley. So everyone was just kind of chipping in and working where they could. But I was transitioned from one ship to the next, and we did that on tender boats. And it was really difficult for me to leave one ship and go to the next ship. I almost felt like I was abandoning everyone on one ship. And then when I did get to my new ship, we were still anchored for another day or so before the Panamanian authorities let us go through the canal. So if you're from Panama, thanks for letting us go through the Panama Canal. But as I mentioned, I was transferred from another ship. But it was cool because you didn't feel as though you left the ship. And that was my gut feeling, was I feel like I'm leaving everyone. But when you turn on the television, we still had the cruise director from the previous ship televised on our ship, and the assistant cruise director and the entertainers. So we were two ships sailing together, but there was that family camaraderie that we were really together, and it was nice. The president of the company that I was sailing with, they had updates on the television letting us know as much information as possible. And the same with the captains, constantly making announcements, trying to give us updates on what we might be able to expect, what the plan was. And I just thought the communication was really nice. Something that was really cool, when I transferred to the second ship, if you've cruised before, you know the captain usually does a welcome aboard toast. Let me try to get that right. And the captain on the new ship couldn't do that because, of course, we had to go right to our rooms, and we were isolated on the new ship. Same protocol, food delivered, and whatever. But I was lying in bed, and an announcement was made, and it said, the captain would like everyone on the ship to turn the TV on right now. He has a very important announcement. And of course, like, you're on pins and needles, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? So you jump up, I turn on the TV, and I was sitting at the edge of my TV in complete suspense. And the captain appeared in the atrium, and he had, his full uniform on, everything. And he said, welcome to this ship. Unfortunately, I can't welcome you in person like I would normally do. So this will have to do. If you can please join me in a toast. Head to your stateroom door right now. There's something waiting. So you get up, you run over, open the door, and there's a glass of sparkling wine and some chocolates. So it was really cool, and he made a toast, we cheers, and everyone presumably on the ship had a sip of sparkling wine at the same time. But that was really unique, because you didn't feel like the ship was being forced to come help us. You really felt like everyone was open and wanting to welcome us and help us as much as possible, which was great. As far as news, that was difficult, because if the captain made a news, or the president of the company made an announcement on our stateroom television, which there was great communication, a lot of times we kind of already knew what was going on. An example was the Panama Canal. Most people on the ship knew that the Panamanian authorities gave us permission to transit the Panama Canal because we read it on the internet, different news outlets. And then when the ship made the official announcement, it was a relief because we officially heard it. And that was kind of how a lot of the news happened on the ship. We would read about it, and then they would make an announcement. And the reason for that, the ships only made announcements when things were set in stone. Not a rumor, not as things were transpiring, but when it was official. And I really like that, because I'm not super keen on the play-by-play news. That's just me personally. And speaking of the news, both of our ships came into Fort Lauderdale. And of course, I was, watching YouTube clips of different news outlets talking about our particular vessels coming into Fort Lauderdale. And as we were approaching Fort Lauderdale, news helicopters were buzzing the ships like crazy. The Coast Guards were escorting us in. You just knew that it was, being televised for everyone to see. And a lot of the news reporting and the comments after the reporting, it didn't seem like we were very welcomed in Fort Lauderdale. And I remember thinking, wow, this is difficult, because I've sailed in and out of Fort Lauderdale so many times. It was kind of like a homecoming for me. And, I wasn't upset, but I felt unwanted. And as our ships were approaching, it was anything but. The people of Fort Lauderdale were fantastic. So many people were lining the port area as we were sailing. They had horns and banners welcoming our vessels coming into port. It was really one of the most touching things that I have ever experienced and will never forget. So what the news had been portraying about our ships arriving and what I experienced firsthand was absolutely fantastic. When we did get to Fort Lauderdale, we had to go through a medical screening, get our temperatures checked as well. And everybody had to funnel through the port area, or the port facility, but it was done based on the deck that you were on. So it was organized as much as you can organize something last minute like that. And the port workers in Fort Lauderdale were welcoming us there, really happy to see us. So really, really cool. Something also, once our ship came alongside, we were just waiting to go home. The cruise line had to privately charter different flights, and I think how they did that, I think they had like a private chartered flight going to the West Coast, one going to the East Coast, and maybe one going to the Midwest, and of course international flights all over the world. It was neat because when we got on the bus, when I got off the ship, they were huge charter buses, and as we were going to the airport in Fort Lauderdale, we probably had 30 or 40 police escorts on motorcycles. And I was thinking, well, why so many police? And when we were on the bus, what happened is one motorcycle would speed up in front of the bus, and as we would get to an intersection, the police were blocking off every single intersection and then coming back. So it was just a smooth transition, no stop, right to the airport, get on the plane, and go home. So that was my experience. If you were stuck on a ship and you want to tell me about your experience, leave that comment. I would love to hear about it, and I will get back to you. I'll be posting a video once a week, and if you have a topic you want me to discuss, let me know. Maybe we'll try to get to it. Until we sail again, I wish you all fair winds and following seas.